left off, I asked you a question. If you were doing this all over again, it's no longer 1970. The world's a very different place. How would you build Porter Novelli? Would you first? How would you build it? Would you change the kind of people that you hire? Would you change the kind of assignments you would take on? Would you, for example, go after the private sector rather than go after the Cancer Institute or the high blood pressure program? What kind of people would you hire?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I guess I have several thoughts. Number one, we were unique. We had that space to ourselves back then.
Yeah.
So we were applying marketing to social and health issues. And there was a certain mystique to it, but there was also a certain suspicion of it.
Right.
People didn't think marketing was all that savory.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember Paul Bloom, I was teaching social marketing with him at Maryland, and the Dean of Admissions asked him to do a study. Who was interested in the University of Maryland? What kind of students? Who was their competition? What was the appeal of the university? And Paul said, I'll do that for you. That's an interesting topic. I'll do a marketing study. And the guy said, please don't call it that. And Paul said, okay, I'll do a demand management study for you. And the guy said, oh, I love that. Give me that. So there was a certain suspicion about marketing back then. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, we had the field almost to ourselves.
Yeah.
Times have changed. So now there's much, much more competition. All these marketing communication agencies have discovered this. And they call it different things, the purpose practice and the triple bottom line and whatever.
Right. Bottom of the pyramid.
Bottom of the pyramid. So you're not going to sneak up on anybody.
Yeah.
But I think we would succeed today as we did then. And I think we would succeed because the private sector is much more involved. And we would go to the private sector as well as to the National Cancer Institute, as well as to USAID, as well as to these other organizations. And we would, I believe, succeed because we talk their language. We come from the private sector.
Right.
And so this whole idea of doing well by doing good, we could make that work.
Mm-hmm.
As for people, I wouldn't have changed any of that.
No?
If you think about the people we had, they weren't all marketing people. They were people from a lot of different disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
But they were creative people, and they were people who had leadership in their DNA.
Yeah.
They were hard chargers. They were people who were as competitive as you could get. And I don't think you need to go out and find people who are specifically from a discipline. I think we can teach them that. But you can't teach some of those other things.
Yeah. I probably agree with you on that, except I think I would have made systems dynamics capability a priority. If a client walks in the door and within, for the first progress review, you want to be able to show them a systems diagram and say, this is what's going on in your space. This is why this is happening. It's a little bit like when Alan Andreessen, we were showing him the results and we were saying, look how many more people are aware of high blood pressure. And then he went over to the next piece of the circle and said, and yes, look how many people have forgotten their awareness and are no longer treating it. Pretty soon you're going to run out of the unawares and they're all going to be in the post-aware segment. And just that little chart was a visualization of the problem,
Yeah, you're right, Bill. There's a concept called theory of change or social change, whatever.
Right.
That's popular, and it's evolved into more like a framework for change.
Mm-hmm.
And you can draw one of those for a company just as well as you can draw one for the National Cancer Institute.
Yeah.
So what you're basically saying is, what's the end point? What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah.
What's nirvana?
Right.
What is success?
Right.
And then you work your way back to way over here, where do you start? And you got to be able to make that as evidence-based as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make it up.
No.
And so sometimes it's called journey mapping. This
Mm-hmm.
is a concept that I think fits what we're talking about. And for the most part, it involves multiple players it involves systems change. For example, we were talking about palliative care earlier. We've got to change the healthcare system.
Right. Oh, yeah.
We've got to change the system. It's
Yeah.
not just changing a single doc's perception.
Mm-hmm.
So there's systems change involved in that.
Right, right. Yeah. I like what you said. You know, let's get the private sector involved earlier. Let's go for some clients there. Because there are now more examples of how you can team up with the public sector, with nonprofits who have real capability, real access, real brand credibility.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're willing to sit down and talk to each other, although sometimes it takes a little bit of coaxing.
Oh, yeah.
So an example, Philips, the big international technology company,
Yeah.
they made a discovery that many of us know, which is that the world is aging. North America is aging. Japan is aging. Europe is aging. So they said, how can we make money from this? And the answer was they make assistive technologies to help people age in place. And when older people apply those technologies, you know, and some of the simplest ones are, you know, call for help if you've fallen down, but all kinds of other technologies. For example, there's this monitoring, or let's say you're in New York and your mother's in Chicago,
Right,
and she doesn't open the refrigerator for 2 days. This monitor will tell you this.
right.
Those kinds of technologies. So therefore adult parents, adult children, and for older people.
Mm-hmm.
Philips wants to make money from those technologies. And there are others, whether it's AARP or you or me, we want to make a difference in terms of people aging successfully.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wins from that.
Right,
Okay, there's
Right.
less institutionalization, so we as taxpayers pay fewer taxes.
right, right.
The world is a healthier place. Philips is happy because they're making money. It's you could call it unbridled capitalism if you want, but it's really systems change along the lines you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.